Morning. So it's been a day or two since we've done something here, making a video, and we are full swing on the planter. We've gotten it kind of all torn down and inspected, and that's the big thing. Tearing it down is easy, but you got to inspect everything, and there's just tons of parts. So we got piles here. Zach's putting together our closing wheel brackets. We welded them up, ground them out, made it all good. We've got big pile of parts here. Gone through all of these, made sure all the bearings are good, checking any play, checking the rubber, and going through all of these. So it's just a ton of parts to go through. But unless you go through it, you don't find problems. And then if you don't go through it and find problems off season, you're gonna find them in season, which is just the worst. So we're getting things figured out. We got all our scrapers here. We've gone through them. We need to order some of those. These are our brackets that we're putting together all very nicely. And now I am working on getting discs set. So when we go through these discs, we spin them, listen for a loud bearing, we listen for play or feel for play, and then we measure them, because then like spec is 14.5, that's technically a worn out disc. But then when it comes to putting it back together, I like to put all like similar sized discs together. It makes it go easier. I'll put the bigger discs in the front row because they get worn out more, because they're used more. Smaller stuff or stuff that maybe has a little bit of play, but it'll make another season, goes in the back row. Let's do some opening discs. And I'm getting pretty good at doing them. I've been doing them for a while. So, got a routine, and it starts with having discs that you know are not warped or got bad bearings in them. And I think it just does a better job. And that's what we're going for. Kind of a pain to work on these. And one's left-hand thread and one's right-hand thread, so you got to figure that out. But we get the discs on. Tighten them down. I've done them enough that you can pretty quickly feel by how they're dragging whether they're going to be close, and these ones are going to be close. They just got the right amount of tension. So what I do, put the discs on, I'll spin them a bit, get any dirt off the edges, get them to seat nicely. And then, this gets real technical here. We grab our business cards, 2 of them, medium thickness, and you got your disc here. You put your cards in there, and then you're supposed to measure them. I have them, the measurements on this piece of paper or business card. Just makes it easier that I'm not carrying a tape around. So I'm looking for right around 2.5, and that's bang on right around 2.5. And it's good to check them in a few spots, and you just want to put the cards in there until they hold themselves. So that's 2. So we got 2.5, 2, and what's this one going to be? 2.5. So they move around, but that's good. I'm looking for between 2.5 and 2, because as they wear, that gap is going to get smaller. So you don't want to make it too close, because then you get a crappy trench. So that one, put on. Now, if you need to adjust them, if it's too big a gap, too small, you pull it off, take out a shim, add a shim. I use a few different size shims because then it really gives you a lot of adjustability, but that one was good. I think we need a total of 8 more discs, so we're gonna dig through the discard pile, see what we can find, because we've already put on a new 14 new discs, but that's kind of all the new ones we're doing for this year. So we're gonna go through these. They were marked that they had a defect, but I like to throw them, depending how bad they are, on the back row to get a little bit more time out of them. So now to make checking your opening discs, your gauge wheels, your closing wheels, all of that to make it really easy, I got this piece of pipe or bar, welded some bolts on it with spacers so that it fits all the various sizes, and then I just throw it in the vise, and then you're off to the races. Take your bolt off, jam it on there tight, And then you can feel the play. Oh yeah, that one's usable. Check for play, listen for a loud bearing, and then we have this gauge, which we use for measuring. You butt the disc up against it, boom, and wherever it sits on this very precisely marked out spot, if it's all the way up here, 15 inches and according. But yeah, this one, it's good. Well, good enough. It's not good, but that'll get another year out of it for sure. And then we write all our sizes on it. Oh yeah. And I do this every year, so I figured we probably could run these again because I'm pretty up on it if we have a bad one. But throw these on the back row, we'll make it work. See, this one's pretty loose, like actually, so we're gonna put this one in discard for sure. Run that one again. Ooh, this one says it's loud. Let's see how bad. You can definitely hear it, but it's gonna run again. And those ones I'll always put on the back row because they see less acres. So we got all the discs on now and it's good to go. And we're gonna get it torqued down just because I don't want to have issues. So because one stud is left hand, one hand is right, I'll torque them all on the one side and then go through it again, back the other way for the other side. Man, those rows are loose. And now we know that all our opening discs are just dialed in, not gonna have any issues, not gonna have a W trench. It's just gonna be perfect. And you don't want to over torque these because then you strip the studs, which is a pain. And some of them you can't change the studs. This one you can. And caps. We've got some metal ones. Tired of these wearing through, but until they all wear through, we're not changing them. Come on. It can be a pain. Had a pretty productive day. What we're trying to figure out, last piece to this whole planter puzzle, is parallel arms. They're worn out. We need to do something with the front row because that's our corn and sunflower row. And that's where it really matters. Compared to beans and canola with super high populations, not a big deal. I missed one. Oh, I missed a couple. What am I doing, buddy? There we go. Beautiful thing. I love when the piles of parts start disappearing back onto the planter. This is probably one of the worst jobs. Wow. Setting the opening discs takes time because you got to shim them and check them. And then setting the gauge wheels to roll across the discs also takes time. But hey, we got a good chunk of things done today. I'm happy with that. Continuing on with planter progress. We put the closing wheel pieces on yesterday and we got all the opening discs torqued and everything below that figured out, spec'd, it all passed. We're good, we're building it back up. We're finally getting rid of piles of parts in here, which I like that. Sometimes when you get a planter torn apart, hard to walk around in the shop. We're at a point now where we need to torque down all the closing wheels. We torque all the wheels on this because I'm tired of losing them, so if we torque them, I just know they're tight, and we're good. I'm gonna wait till I have help for that, but now we're gonna start going through the meters. We need to go through them all, inspect them all, check out all the brushes, and that sort of thing. The seals, there's a lot of parts in there that sometimes need to be changed. I'm hoping they're in pretty good shape because we've gone through them every year for the last 4 or 5 years, and we keep doing stuff, so hopefully we don't need much. And then the last big piece to this planter puzzle, which we've been wrestling with for a while, and I think it's pretty common for a lot of people, is worn out parallel arms. And if we're doing beans and canola with really high populations, it doesn't matter because worn out parallel arms make the row unit chatter side to side, and it can get your seed bouncing. And when you have low populations, and corn specifically with the importance of singularity, plant population, and all the rest, that will make the seed take longer time to drop through there. So if it's just solid, it just falls through the seed run. If the row unit's chattering back and forth, the seed bounces, and it takes longer, it kills your singulation. And we've been trying to figure this out for the last few years. How are we gonna do parallel arms on this without just spending 20 grand? Because it's expensive to do arms, and if you go to John Deere, they're just gonna be worn out right away again. Anyway, so we figured it out. I contemplated doing the ream kits with bushings, but I've heard not good things about them. They're very labor intensive, and you can do them all, and if you're reaming out a slopped out hole, none of the holes in all the arms are exactly where they need to be, and sometimes you can finish doing it, lift up a row unit, and it won't come back down because it's binding up from in uneven holes, per se. So I didn't want to go that route. Then I found there's a bearing kit, kind of like your closing wheel bearing kit. You can weld it on the arms and redo them that way. I like that idea because you're not drilling, takes less labor, and there's a jig so you're getting the bearings exactly where you need them no matter what the hole looks like. But haven't been able to get a hold of the company that produces them, and it's still labor intensive, and then you question whether the bearing can handle side load from turning, how long it'll hold up. I think it would be good. I would have tried it if I could have got a hold of them. But what we are doing is we are buying aftermarket arms that have pressed in bushings, and then you use another bushing so that it is actually going to wear the bushing out instead of the arm, because that's the problem with John Deere. They use bushings that are harder than the arms, so then it just wears out the arm. I can pull the bushings out of this thing and they look day one, but the arms are sloppy. Let me show you. Here we have a long arm from front row, and you can see that it is worn out there. It is an oval, not in good shape. And here is the bushing. And if you look at that bushing, I mean, you can see that's where it's been riding, but if you spin it around, you're not hardly seeing any divots or grooves because that bushing just doesn't wear out. What a terrible design. So then you get play like that and your row walks around on you. So we're getting new arms, and it's gonna be $8 grand for complete set of front new arms with bushings and bolts to go with them so that everything is fresh. And then on the back unit, because it's less important, the back rows only do soybeans and canola, not corn and sunflowers like the front row. So this row, we will end up doing just the upper arm, and that's going to be all we need to do here, which is $100 a row for both arms with bolts and bushings. So that's how we're going to get things non-sloppy. One of the things on our list every year, inspecting meters. We're going to go through all 31 of them check them out, see how they look, make sure they're all good for the next season. First thing I do, I'm popping that lid off, checking in here, making sure nothing's broken. This screen is all still good and in place, and we'll close that up. That's kind of just quickly make sure the hopper's good. Now, we're gonna go through this door. Blow it off, and we're inspecting our scraper and our door seal. If they get wear, they're usually like right around here or up in here. This one looks all good. Then we blow that off. You're inspecting your inner disc seal right here, and we're taking a look at all the brushes here, making sure there weren't any mice in here over the off season chewing the brushes, or they weren't super worn out, because there's 3 brushes in here, and it all spins. Looks good. That meter is gonna not need any parts. From what we've learned over the years is you can send these into your dealership and they can spin the meters and run them, and 9 times out of 10, if your vacuum or whatever isn't working well, they're gonna start by putting in new seals. So the seals, I could do 1 row for 20 bucks of new seals. That'll get me new seals in the row. Cost me 50 bucks a pop to run a meter. So instead of running meters, and I figured they're usually changing seals, I just resealed all the meters 2 years ago, and they've been good. Now, why I would run a meter is to size the seed, if we have a funny size seed, to the disc, and get the specs on what pressures we should be running. That helps. But man, just throwing a set of new seals in a box every couple of years, it's cheap and keeps things running well. And then you're not paying 50 bucks a row just to run it and find out you need seals. So, inspected, all good. Move on to the next one. If I find something that I have an issue with, I'll mark it with an X. That's from last year. And then I know if I have to order parts, what box they go in. But yeah, you just want to run through each box and make sure, hey, nothing's broke or cracked, you don't have any missing brushes, or your seal's not worn out, so that you're doing the best job possible. I go through everything at once, production, factory line style, like all the closing wheels inspected, then we know what we need to order. All the opening discs inspected, we know what to order, and then you're already set up doing that project. It takes a long time because you're specifically looking at that, but it's more efficient in the end. So that's what we're doing. We're gonna go through these meters. We're not putting them on yet though, because we have to do the arms, the parallel arms, and we don't have parts for that till next week. So we're just gonna finish running through these. So there we go. That's kind of where we're at on the planter right now, and we've gotten a ton of stuff done. It's coming along. This is the fastest we've ever done planter maintenance, and it's in really good shape. We are waiting on a few parts though, so we're still buttoning up some of the closing wheel or the gauge wheels, that sort of thing, and then we'll probably start on the tractor until we get a bunch of those parts in. Let's just quickly take a look at my planter list if anyone cares to see. Here's my list. We inspect the agitator, inspect the liquid kit. I want to change the seat firmers, checking tire pressure, inspecting closing wheels, inspecting springs, gauge wheels, Truvies, scrapers, bearings and sprockets. I've got my foot-pounds for torquing, because we do torque the rotating stuff on this, because otherwise you lose it and that sucks. And then it's oil change. Most of my lists are always inspecting and hoping that I find something, because if I find it now, that is good for the long term. Anyways, I appreciate you guys watching, and we'll see you on the next one.